On this episode of Building Men, your purpose. Welcome to the Building Men podcast. I'm your host, Dennis Meralda. This podcast will be geared toward helping you become the most extraordinary version of yourself, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. A few months back, I was listening to a podcast called The Holistic Alpha, and who's now my good friend, Stephen Mathis, talked about the importance of having a purpose in life on this one podcast that I was listening to, and it really changed my mindset. It changed my thinking. I was in a really, kind of down place during that time. It was almost like an empty feeling that I had, and I listened to this podcast, and it did kind of turn things around for me. One thing that Stephen talked about was that without a purpose, you will not feel whole or complete, and that really resonated with me. So this podcast is part 2 of a 6-part series in the Foundations of Masculinity. So the 5 foundations of masculinity, 5 characteristics are your purpose, relationships, accountability, resiliency, and contribution. And I put your purpose at the top of the list for a reason. It has to start with this above all else. So when you think about your purpose, I'm going to give you 5 ways, or 5 steps to look at your purpose. If you haven't noticed yet, I'm kind of big on lists, on putting things out there in a numerical fashion. It just helps me remember things and make sense of things in my head. So that's how I do it. So the first is your purpose is yours. It's not what your parents expect. It's not what your significant other thinks you should be doing. It's not about status. It's not about money. It is about your drive. You have to start with looking inside of yourself. So find a problem that you care about. Start solving it. Obviously, you're not going to fix the world's problems all by yourself, but you can contribute and make a difference. And that feeling of making a difference, that feeling of contributing, it's ultimately what's important to you and your own happiness and fulfillment. And that importance equates to purpose. So the first is to look inward. The second is to ask questions. So a couple questions you can ask when you're thinking of your purpose is, what gives life meaning? What brings me happiness? When do you feel most like yourself? What gives you strength? What is something that you say you'll do when you retire or when you have free time? If you had 1 year left on Earth, how would you choose to spend those precious 365 days? How do you want to be remembered? By whom and for what? So the second step is to ask questions. The third is to have a plan. The way I think about this is making ideal life statements, writing it down. Ideal life statements. So let me think about this. It takes a few minutes, but you would write down what your ideal life would look like, would sound like, would feel like. So my ideal life would allow me to travel. My ideal life would give me the opportunity to be my own boss, to make my own hours, to kind of do my own thing. My ideal life would give me the opportunity to help people, to coach people, to teach, and to inspire. So those are just a couple things off the top of my head about how I would frame my ideal life. But the third thing is have a plan. Write it down. Think about what your ideal life would encompass. Number 4 is take action. For many of us, the enemy is just old-fashioned complacency. We get into our routines. We distract ourselves. The couch is comfortable. The beer tastes delicious. The Doritos are cheesy. And nothing new happens. What most people don't understand is that passion is the result of action, not the cause of it. I'll say that again. What most people don't understand is that passion is the result of action, not the cause of it. Discovering what you're passionate about in life and what matters to you is a full contact sport, trial by fire process. None of us know exactly how we feel about an activity until we actually do the activity, and that inspires us. That's what drives us, doing it, feeling something, and then moving forward with it. Ask yourself, if someone put a gun to your head right now and forced you to leave your house every day for a year to do something, what would you do? How would you choose to occupy that time? And no, you can't just sit at Starbucks and go on social media. You probably do that already. Let's pretend that there are no useless websites, no video games, no TV. You have to go outside of your house every day until it's time to go to bed. Where would you go and what would you do? That might help you figure out what your purpose is. Would you sign up for a boxing class? Would you join a book club? Would you go get another degree? What would you do? Do something. So for me, I started a podcast. It was so scary to me, but I wanted to do it. I felt like this was my purpose, and so I needed to take action on it. Massive action. Take massive action if it's necessary. So the fourth step is to take action. The fifth is don't stop. Go under, go around, go through, but don't stop. There will inevitably be setbacks and failures. If you haven't already, go back and listen to my podcast on reframing failures. Look at setbacks and failures as an opportunity for reflection and growth, recalibration, not destitute or despair. It's how you think about things that go wrong in your life that can contribute to how you make things go right. Once you've gained more clarity about your purpose, you don't need to completely overhaul your life. Instead, just kind of lean into it. You've heard me say that before. Lean into it bit by bit. It will help you kind of understand what you're about, is leaning into things that interest you and things that you're passionate about. Start living your purpose a little more fully every day. Pay attention to feedback you're receiving from others and results that you're getting, producing. And then how you're feeling. When you're doing something that you love to do, how do you feel? And can you envision yourself doing this for a longer period of time? Keep doing the first 4 steps over and over. Look inward, ask questions, and have a plan. Adjust if necessary. Take action. Remember, things are happening for you, not to you. Here's the truth. We exist on this earth for an undetermined period of time. During that time, we have experiences, we do things. Some of these things are important, some of them are unimportant. We just kind of waste time. Some of the things give our life meaning, and they give our life happiness. The unimportant things, basically, they kill time. So when people say, what should I do with my life, or what is my life's purpose, what they're asking is, what can I do with my time that is important to me, or what can I do with my time that I'm passionate about? There's no reason for you to be contemplating the origin of life or the meaning of life at all waking hours. But instead of sitting on your couch drinking beer and eating Doritos, rather get off your ass and do something. Discover what it feels like when something's important to you or when you're passionate about something. Ultimately, death is the only real thing that gives us perspective on the value of our lives. It's only imagining your non-existence that we get a sense of what's really important. So what is your legacy going to be? How are you going to be remembered? What stories will people tell about you? What's your obituary going to say? I think about this often. What would people say about me in my obituary? What would people say about me during a eulogy? Is there anything to say at all? And if not, why not? What haven't I done that people would have positive things to say about me and changes that I've made in the world? When people feel like there's no sense of direction or purpose, it's because they don't know what's important to them. So you need to look for what is important to you. Passion plus action equals a purposeful life. Passion plus action equals a purposeful life. Consider the real purpose in anyone's life is to be fully involved in living that life. So try to be present for the journey and fully embrace it. Enjoy the journey into your own extraordinary life. Our 5 steps were to look inward, to ask questions, to have a plan, take action, and don't stop. I'm going to end with a poem by Michael Josephson. It's called What Will Matter. Ready or not, someday it will all come to an end. There will be no more sunrises, no minutes, hours, or days. All the things you collected, whether treasured or forgotten, will pass to someone else. Your wealth, fame, temporal power will shrivel to irrelevance. It will not matter what you owned or what you were owed. Your grudges, resentments, frustrations, and jealousies will finally disappear. So too, your hopes, ambitions, plans, and to-do lists will expire. The wins and losses that once seemed so important will fade away. It won't matter where you came from or what side of the tracks you lived on in the end. It won't matter whether you were beautiful or brilliant. Even your gender and skin color will be irrelevant. So what will matter? How will the value of your days be measured? What will matter is not what you bought, but what you built. Not what you got, but what you gave. What will matter is not your success, but your significance. What will matter is not what you learned, but what you taught. What will matter is every act of integrity, compassion, courage, or sacrifice that enriched, empowered, or encouraged others to emulate your example. What will matter is not your competence, but your character. What will matter is not how many people knew you, but how many people will feel a lasting loss when you're gone. What will matter is not your memories, but the memories of those who loved you. What will matter is how long you will be remembered, by whom, and for what. Living a life that matters doesn't happen by accident. It's not a matter of circumstance, but of choice. Choose to live a life that matters. If you like any of the material on the Building Men podcast, please consider sharing it with someone who might benefit and writing a review. Follow me on Instagram on building.men. I mentioned my buddy Stephen Mathis in the beginning of the podcast. I'll put his information in the show notes. It's Holistic Alpha Podcast, and his name is Stephen Mathis. Thanks for listening. Next time we're going to talk about the second characteristic of masculinity, which is relationships. We'll see you next time on Building Men.